Hey, what is going on, you filthy frillish? This is my first time ever doing a video like this, an IRL deck profile. At least I think it is. I maybe did some for like League Cups and League Challenges back in the day. I don't really remember, but I've been doing this with all the future IRL decks I play in tournaments. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Charizard deck that I played at Portland Regionals and managed to get top 8 with. Before we do that though, Paldean Fates is releasing in just a couple weeks, so if you guys need any Paldean Fates products, Game Grid has got you covered. Go check them out, GameGridSLC.com. Of course, there's going to be a link in the description, and yeah, use code AzulGG over there as well to get yourself a discount on any Paldean Fates or any other Pokemon products that you might need. GameGridSLC.com, link will be in the description. So I did play Charizard at Portland, and I did manage to get top 8. I lost to John, who ended up taking the whole thing down in top 8. Playing the Lost Zone Giratina. So to start off with, let's take a look at the Pokemon first. I'm going to give you a pretty detailed breakdown of all the cards and why I played them. Of course, some of them are going to be pretty obvious and straightforward, but the ones that stand out a little bit more, I'm going to put a little bit more detail in with. We got the 70 HP Charmander to begin with, 2 of the Blazing Destruction Charmander. This is probably your best overall Charmander in the deck. It can bump Path to the Peak with Blazing Destruction. Path to the Peak can be a huge hindrance to this deck, of course, so 2 of these is kind of your go-to Charmander, I guess you could call that. We did include 1 Ember and 1 Heat Tackle in here as well. The Heat Tackle was actually really good. I kind of wish I had played it in the San Antonio list with how much I used it in the at Portland, to be honest. So Heat Tackle, 30 damage for 1 Fire Energy. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot, but this can set up a lot of KOs or cleanup knockouts as well on stuff like Shiny Arcana Gardevoirs, Giratinas, Golden Go as well. I played against 2 Golden Go in the tournament, and the Heat Tackle was great against the Golden Goes to initially try and set up for a 2-hit KO, a Heat Tackle Charmander into a Charizard a little bit later on. A really bad matchup, but the Heat Tackle came in clutch for sure. So I'm really liking the 2-1-1 split of Charmanders. I think just having all the options is really nice. And then the Ember Charmander, I probably attacked with Ember the least, but I would still include it. A couple of the other people that I worked with that had played the deck definitely got value out of Ember for sure. So I would definitely include just the good old 1 or 2-1-1 split, have all the options of all the Charmanders. Ember specifically is good against Giratina to clean up a Giratina that you've hit for 240 damage, Giratina V-Star after you've already hit them with a Charizard for 240, and then also really good against Shiny Arcana Gardevoir in the Gardevoir deck as well, because sometimes they attack with a Shiny Arcana and they have 40 HP left, so the Heat Tackle is not quite enough, or you can't find your Vitality Band to get the Heat Tackle to the 40 damage, so the Ember can come in clutch for that. For the Charmeleon, still rocking that 90 HP Charmeleon because it combos so well with the Level Ball that we play, and then the 2 Fire Energy for the Heat Tackle is great to KO Mimikyu. Of course, the control matchup's really tough, but an option to KO Mimikyu is really nice, and Charmeleon gets us there for sure. And like the synergy with the Level Ball is the main reason to play the 90 HP Charmeleon. 3 Charizard EX. Wouldn't be against playing 4, but I feels like a 4th one would be kind of overkill. Or not worth the spot. There's other things I'd rather include first before that 4th Charizard X. We got the 2 Pidgey. Of course, we're playing the Call for Family Pidgey. Now that we have Jirachi to protect our bench Pokemon, playing the 60 HP Pidgey, having the extra HP on that Pidgey doesn't really make a big difference. And Call for Family is super clutch. I actually called for Family a lot on turn 2 after I kind of whiffed like a Battle VIP pass turn 1. Got myself into a Pidgey, used Call for Family, and kind of reset up from there. So I was kind of going for a turn 3 setup with that play, but when your opponent chooses second and you go first and you don't get your Battle VIP passes, sometimes turn 2 Call for Family is really all you got to work with. And of course with the Pidgeys, the 2 Pidgeot EX with that quick search ability. For the rest of our support Pokemon, played the exact same stuff that I played at San Antonio. The Jirachi to protect us from the Sableye, the Manaphy to protect us from Greninja, and Urshifu in the Rapid Strike deck. We got the Mew for some early game setup, some mid game item search, and some late game item search as well with the Mysterious Tail. The Mew is sick, it's super clutch, especially when you go first to help you find extra Battle VIP passes on that first turn to really get set up when you can't use your Arvins. And then of course we got the Luminion for the supporter search through the Ultra Ball, and the Rotom for some extra additional setup on that first turn, and also a great target to hold our Forest Seal Stone, and it has that insta charge ability to draw some cards in the early game. Next we'll take a look at the supporters. Nothing too shocking or surprising or anything I think I would really change here. Of course we have the 4 Arven. I wouldn't go any less than 4 if we are rocking Arven. The 4 Arven finds our really important tool cards, finds our Battle VIP passes in that first turn of the game when we go second, and then finds our situational item cards after that. There were candies, the Ultra Balls, you name it, Arven finds it for you for sure. Set those up there. I got the 3 Iono, early game draw power, mid game, late game disruption, and draw power. Can't go wrong with a heavy count of Iono in a deck like Charizard. when we are like a little bit more of a come from behind type deck. You know, yeah, you can't go wrong with that. The one research for a little bit of alternative or different, I guess I should say, draw support in the deck. Don't just have Iono. We're not always going to be shuffling our opponent's hand to the deck, and it gives a little bit more heavy draw power when we use it as well. To discard your hand, draw 7 is great. Of course, we can find it with Quick Search and Luminion, so we only play the 1, but we have a lot of ways to find it when we need it. And then definitely the split of the 3 Iono 1 research has grown on me quite a bit after these last 2 tournaments of playing it. I wasn't a huge fan of it, or the idea of it over the 4th Iono at San Antonio. I didn't get as much value out of it at San Antonio, but in Portland, I definitely got some more use out of it. I think definitely at least playing a research is correct. Now, should you play 3 Iono, could maybe go down to 2 and fit some other draw supporters in there as well. But I think 1 research makes a ton of sense for sure. And then, of course, the 3 bosses orders. I wouldn't go anywhere without these in a Charizard deck. It's so important to keep up in the prize trading games and closeout games. I do still have 2 Countercatcher in my list, which I could see cutting a Countercatcher, but I don't think I'd ever cut a boss's orders. Just too important to keep up in games as games progress. Okay. Next up, Stadium cards. Same thing as my San Antonio list, but one thing I will mention, love the collapsed. To be able to remove liabilities off your bench. I love the Artisan as some extra Pokemon search in the deck, and you don't really need... Double Collapse is something I've toyed with, the idea of it, to be really aggressive about removing your liabilities from your bench. I'm not sure I love the idea of that, though. I do love the Collapse, love the Artisan. The Lost City, I'm less of a fan of right now. The Lost City is mainly in here for the Lost Pile matchup, but Lost Pile isn't that popular. And yeah, it's just not that popular. That's basically it. Lost Pile just isn't very popular right now. So I think moving forward, unless Lost Pile increases in popularity by a lot, I would cut the Lost City for a second Artisan. Just a more basic Pokemon search would be great. It really helps in those slower starts where you don't get the 1 or even 2 or even maybe even just 1 Battle VIP pass. When you miss those and your opponent takes some early knockouts, being able to find your basic Pokemon is key. And Lost City doesn't really do a whole ton for that. Also, Lost City isn't really that good against Lost Tina. Usually Lost City is pretty good against the Lost Zone decks, but like Lost Tina specifically, the Lost City actually isn't that good against. So yeah, with Lost Tina being the most popular Lost Zone deck, Lost Pile really not being around too much, I think I would cut the Lost City right now, and I would just go with the second Artisan moving forward. For the rest of the Pokemon search, speaking of Artisan and Pokemon search, we got 4 Battle VIP pass, of course. Aggressively finding our basic Pokemon in the early game, can't go wrong with that. 4 Ultra Ball to find, I don't know, basic Pokemon, evolution Pokemon, you name it, Ultra Ball does it. Finding Luminion is one of the biggest things. Definitely would never cut an Ultra Ball. 4 Ultra Ball was great. Compared to the San Antonio list, I did cut down to 1 Level Ball. Initially, I switched to 1 Level Ball, 1 Nest Ball, but we had to make some room for some other tech cards we'll talk about here in a little bit. And the Level Ball was on the chopping block, and I definitely felt the difference of only having 1 Level Ball in the deck. I really missed the second Level Ball. Even if it was a Nest Ball, that would have been great. Just the lack of Pokemon search off of Arven, besides being able to use an Ultra Ball, I really felt that. So I would love to get the second Level Ball back into the deck, or maybe a Nest Ball. That would be reasonable as well, because Nest Ball can find Rotom in the mid game to combo with Force Seal Stone, which doesn't come up too often, but it would be a reason to play a Nest Ball over a Level Ball. Like I said, I'd probably cut the Lost City for a second Artisan, so that might make up for the Pokemon search enough where I don't really feel the pain of the lack of the second Level Ball. But yeah, some more basic Pokemon search would definitely be pretty good, and I'm looking at maybe another item card even past the Artisan. Just more consistency. Consistency is key. Consistency is king. Of course, we got the 4 Rare Candy in here. 2 Rare Candy out our Charizard and stuff. Still have the double counter catcher. Like I said, this is probably one of the cards that's highest on the chopping block right now, is one of the counter catchers, but they're really, really good in mirror match up against Lost Tina. Yeah, counter catcher is just super sick. I really don't want to cut one, but I could see it. I could see cutting a counter catcher. I don't know. It's a tough call, though. I really don't want to. The 2 Lost Vacuum, I think, definitely needs to be a staple for right now. You kind of want to cut back on the Stadium Bump cards a little bit, but with Miraidon's kind of going back to Path to the Peak, Lost Tina having so much Path to the Peak, being able to use Arven to find a way to bump Path to the Peak is just really, really good. And even though 1 would allow you to do that sometimes, being able to do it twice throughout the game, or depending on if you're just naturally drawn to a Lost Vacuum, having the extra one in there to be able to find with Arven is pretty impactful. So yeah, really big fan of the double vacuum in there as well. Stuck with, or went to, I should say, from the San Antonio list, I went to 2 Super Odd, and I guess I'll talk about this right now. We'll talk about the tool cards and the switch card here in a second. So 6 Fire Energy, 2 Super Odd. At San Antonio, I played 7 Fire Energy, 1 Super Odd, which was already felt a little bit low. Now, this is theoretically more energy overall throughout a game, though. Because if you like get rid of 2 Fire Energy and then you play 1 Super Odd and recover 2 Fire Energy, and then you lose like 3 Fire Energy and you play a Super Odd and recover 3 Fire Energy, you know, total that's going to be like 11 fire energy, right? Which is more than 3 in 1. The tricky thing with 6 fire energy though is depending on if you prize 1 or even 2, your early games can be a little bit weird, especially your secondary Charizard can be a little bit weird with actually having enough energy to be able to move your Pokemon around potentially, and then also have enough energy to attack with your Charizards. But I will say I really did like the double Super Rod, specifically in the Lost Tina matchup and the Mirror matchup, which can go really long. And especially with TM Devo in the format right now, the second Super Rod felt really, really powerful with a lot of people playing TM Devo. So I actually think moving forward, I would keep the 6 fire double Super Rod. Yeah, it feels weird. You definitely have to be very aware of how much fire energy you have left and play pretty aggressively towards your first Super Rod play. But with 2 of them in the deck, you have that much higher of a chance of just naturally drawing into it, and then less likely for one of them to be prized, because prizing your Super Rod plus an energy always sucked. Even at 7-1, prizing an energy sucked, prizing the Super Rod sucked. So the 2 Super Rod drastically reduces your odds of prizing a Super Rod, which is 6. So yeah, 6 energy, 2 Super Rod, I actually ended up being a big fan of. It does feel a little awkward sometimes, but once you get the gameplay down with it, it's a really, really powerful secondary card in specifically the Mirror match and in the Lost Tina matchup. Up next, we got the Switch. Why did we play the Switch? Or why did I play the Switch? Why did me and the team play the Switch? We played the Switch because of Tapu Koko EX in Miraidon. It was pretty obvious that, like, moving forward, especially after I won San Antonio with a list that had no way to deal with paralysis, that probably people were going to include quite a few paralysis cards. And we actually saw that from Nicholas Moffat, who got top 8 with a Miraidon list with the Tapu Koko EX. I played against a Miraidon list in Swiss that had the Tapu Koko EX, and I'm pretty sure every Miraidon list or every Miraidon deck I saw at Portland that was being played had the Tapu Koko EX. And some people even had the Articuno in Lost Zone decks and in Palkia decks as well for more paralysis in the Charizard matchup. So the Switch was kind of a no-brainer to include in the deck. I mean, a Switch, an Escape Rope, a Jet Energy, Turo, just something, some way to get out of paralysis was definitely a no-brainer. Also, it makes your control matchup quite a bit better. I think the group overall had a decent run against the controls we did go against. I'm not sure if we got any dubs, but I'm pretty sure there was a tie or two. I didn't hit any controls personally, but the group hit a couple and had a way better time because they had the Switch card in there. So yeah, so the Switch was sick, and I think moving forward, you kind of have to include it, whether it be the Switch or the Turo, whatever you think is best. Theoretically, the Turo is the better overall, but it's much more resource demanded to pull off. You kind of have to Luminion or Quick Search for it to be able to find it consistently. You can Arven for the Switch. You can Luminion for Arven for the Switch, whereas to get the Turo, you have less outs to overall finding the Turo. Also, if you do Turo for turn, you have to have like a backup Charizard to work with, or a Rare Candy and a Charmander, or Charmander on the bench with a Rare Candy ready to go to get into that next Charizard. So it's a lot more demanding, the Turo is, where the Switch is just, you just switch to your Pidgeot or something with an energy, and then you retreat back to the active, and then you attack again with your Charizard. So the Switch is a lot more seamless. I think it works a lot more consistently. So yeah, the Switch definitely the most consistent of the options, but I will say Turo would probably be like the most powerful option to include in the Mirror match, especially combined with like double Super Rod. It's kind of crazy how powerful a Turo could be, especially when combined with one of the tool cards we'll talk about here in a second. So I kept the Vitality Band. Vitality Band super strong in the Lost Tina matchup, would not cut Vitality Band right now. And then of course we have our Forest Seal Stone, the TMD Evolution. So I saw every Charizard deck at Kyoto, Champions League Kyoto, playing the TMD Evolution. I was like, that's interesting. What are its best matchups? Well, it has to be Mirror match. And then I tested like 2 games of TMD Evolution against Justified Gloves Charizard, or played out a couple games with it, and I was like, yep, you literally just always win if you have TMD Evolution and your opponent doesn't. So I immediately was like, yep, we're cutting the Justified Gloves. You got to play the TMD Evolution. The only matchup it really hurts to no longer have the Justified Gloves in is the Roaring Moon matchup, because if they take an initial knockout with a Roaring Moon, you don't have a way to get that 230 damage. You'll hit him for 210 because they've drawn 1 prize card. If you put the Vitality Band on, you'll hit him for 220, and Roaring Moon has 230 HP, but usually they have like a Mew or a Squawkabilly, or even like a Moltres on their bench. And you can go like counter catch your Vitality Band to go chase that down for your first 2 prize cards. So it's not terrible to not have the Justified Gloves for that matchup. Definitely hurts a little bit. You'd prefer to have them. But Charizard is way more popular than Roaring Moon. Roaring Moon really isn't a main main deck to like tech for in the meta, whereas Charizard was the most popular deck at Portland. So the TMD Evolution just makes a ton of sense. And I think moving forward, it makes sense to continue to include as well. Really, really powerful in the Mirror match. You basically lose Mirror match if you don't have this and your opponent does. And then also it's a really cool, strong tech card strong card in the Guardy matchup as well. It doesn't just like auto win you the matchup. It's still a tough matchup, especially with a list like this. The Guardy matchup is going to be super tough, but it's a nice tool to have around to give you some more lines of play to kind of play into to give yourself a chance against Gardevoir at the very least. But yeah, the Gardevoir matchup is really tough. TMD Evolution doesn't solve your problems there, but it does give you a huge edge in the mirror match. So definitely include it moving forward. And that's a list. That's a list I played for the Portland Regional Championships. Like I said, I got top 8. Let me know what you guys think about this type of video. I plan to do this style of video moving forward. Maybe I'll lay out my deck a little bit better next time, a little bit more cleanly. It's kind of scattered all over the place. But I'll leave a link in the description to the Limitless page with the import for the deck where you can view it all there in a little bit more cleaner overlay. I'll lay it out more cleanly next time for sure. But yeah, I plan to do these type of videos after every IRL tournament I attend. So at the very least, international championships and regionals. I don't really play in local tournaments like cups and challenges and stuff like that, but if I ever do, I will also do deck profiles on the decks I play at those, but don't expect many of those for those kind of tournaments. But for every regional, every international championships, every world championships, I'll be coming out with a deck profile video like this. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's any other information you'd want from me in these videos, or if there's any cards that I played specifically in this Charizard deck that you want a little bit more of a breakdown on, anything that I didn't mention that you would like to know the answer to. Leave a comment in the comment section down below, and I'll catch y'all in the next video. Peace.